Once upon a time, in a quaint village nestled by the edge of a dense forest, there lived a poor miller and his beautiful daughter, Helena. The miller, desperate to gain favor and improve his standing, boasted to the king during a chance encounter, "Your Majesty, my daughter possesses the extraordinary gift of spinning straw into gold." The king, a man whose greed knew no bounds, was intrigued. He summoned Helena to his grand castle, towering and imposing against the backdrop of the darkening sky. Upon her arrival, the king led her through a labyrinth of echoing hallways to a cold, dimly lit room filled with heaps of straw. A spinning wheel and spindle stood ominously in the center. "You have until dawn," the king decreed, his voice a chilling whisper. "Spin this straw into gold, or you shall die." As the heavy door slammed shut behind her, Helena's heart pounded with fear. She knew her father's boast was a lie. She sank to the floor, tears streaming down her face. Her sobs filled the cavernous room, but suddenly she was not alone. Out of the shadows stepped a tiny, peculiar man. His eyes glinted with mischief and his movements were quick and precise. "Why do you weep, my dear?" he asked in a voice that was both comforting and unnerving. Helena, startled but desperate, explained her plight. The little man nodded thoughtfully. "I can spin this straw into gold for you," he said. "But what will you give me in return?" Helena, without hesitation, offered him her necklace, a precious keepsake from her mother. The tiny man accepted with a sly smile and set to work. All night long the spinning wheel hummed, and by dawn the room was filled with glittering gold. When the king entered the room, his eyes widened in astonishment and greed. But his desire was insatiable. He led Helena to an even larger room, brimming with more straw. "You must spin all this into gold by morning or your life is forfeit," he commanded. Left alone again, Helena's despair deepened. But once more, the tiny man appeared. "What will you give me if I help you this time?" he asked. Helena, with trembling hands, removed her ring, a gift from her late father. The tiny man took it and, just as before, spun the straw into gold throughout the long, dark night. By morning, the king's greed had only grown. He brought Helena to an immense chamber, piled high with straw. "If you succeed, you shall become my queen," he said. "But if you fail, you shall die." This time, Helena was truly hopeless. The tiny man appeared yet again. "What will you give me now?" he asked with a knowing look. Helena, feeling the weight of her impossible situation, pleaded, "I have nothing left to give." The tiny man's eyes gleamed. "Then promise me your firstborn child when you become queen." Helena, believing she would never be queen and desperate to save her life, agreed. The tiny man spun the straw into gold, and by morning the room shone with wealth beyond measure. The king, true to his word, married Helena, and she became queen. A year passed, and the kingdom flourished under her kind and wise rule. She bore the king a beautiful son, and for a time she forgot her dreadful promise. But one night, as she rocked her baby to sleep, the tiny man appeared, his eyes glittering with expectation. "I have come for what you promised," he said. The queen's heart sank. She begged and pleaded with him, offering all the riches of the kingdom in exchange for her child. But the tiny man was unmoved. "A promise is a promise," he said. Desperate, the queen asked if there was any way to break the promise. The tiny man, sensing her despair, said, "I will give you 3 days to guess my name. If you can do so, you may keep your child." For 2 sleepless nights, the queen guessed every name she could think of, but each time, the tiny man shook his head with a smug smile. On the 3rd day, as hope waned, one of her messengers returned with news of a strange encounter. "Your Majesty," he said, "I came across a peculiar little man dancing around a fire, singing, 'Tomorrow I brew, today I bake. And then the child away I'll take. For little deems my royal dame that Rumpelstiltskin is my name.'" Armed with this newfound knowledge, the queen waited anxiously for the tiny man's return. That night he appeared, a triumphant gleam in his eye. "Have you guessed my name, my queen?" he asked. The queen feigned ignorance at first, naming the most common name she could think of. The tiny man's smug smile grew with each incorrect guess. Finally, she looked him in the eye and asked, "Is your name Rumpelstiltskin?" The tiny man's face twisted in rage. He stomped his foot so hard that it sank deep into the ground. In his fury, he grabbed his left foot with both hands and, with a terrible scream, tore himself in two. In a puff of smoke, he vanished, never to be seen again. The queen, her heart pounding with relief, held her child close. She had outwitted the strange little man, and the kingdom rejoiced in the triumph of their wise and brave queen. And so, Helena and her family lived happily ever after, the story of Rumpelstiltskin becoming a legend passed down through the ages.